How do they do the diagnosis here in Seychelles? So at the hospital,
Yeah.
how do they do it previously, and how do you do it? Is there a difference between the way you guys?
Well, there shouldn't be a difference, but there is. um, at the hospital, they use something we call the Autism Diagnostic Observation Schedule. And that's at the Early Childhood Intervention Center. That's the only place where you can get a child diagnosed with autism. Unfortunately, it's the Early Childhood Intervention Center. So if you're like an adult with autism, I don't think you can get diagnosed in Seychelles. So, and an adolescent as well, it's very difficult unless somebody knows someone who knows someone, you know how it works here.
Yeah.
Then you can get an appointment or something. But technically, it's usually small children that gets diagnosed, early childhood. So from the ages of 2 years old to 5 years old, that we would call that. Oh, 0 to 5 years old is early childhood. So they get diagnosed through basically the diagnostic test in itself is just a bunch of toys, and you just put it on the floor, and the kid just comes and plays with it, and you have to just observe how they play with the toys, how they respond to it. And then there's a scoring sheet that you score them on, and you score how well the child, how typical or atypical the child is playing with the toys. And there's different markers to look out for, and then you score those markers and you tick and you put scores next to it, and then you have to go and do all that scoring, all that boring statistic stuff in the background. And through that, then they can make a diagnosis. But I'm actually not sure how, if they just do that, or if there's a team of people who comes in also to do observations as well. I think there should be a team of people, but with COVID and everything, things changed. So that's usually how the hospital does it. And because the ADOS, it's called the ADOS test. The ADOS test is very expensive, about $2,500.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I couldn't afford that. So as a private business, I got the autism diagnostic interview revised. So that's the one where you diagnose autism based on parents' perspectives as well. The ideal diagnostic plan, you can say, protocol, is to do both, because your subjective observation of a child is not always reliable, because you've just met this child now, maybe you've had 2 or 3 sessions with them, their parents have known them their whole lives. So you're actually supposed to do the ADIR with the ADOS together,
Okay.
and that's going to get you a really, really reliable diagnosis. So what I usually do would be to kind of mimic a bit of the ADOS, because I'm trained in that as well, to mimic a bit of the ADOS setup and give them the toys and see how they play with it. So that's going to compensate for the observation part. But my normal process is to actually refer them to the hospital, but for them to get an appointment, it's probably they won't get an appointment anytime soon. So what I do is I focus on the parents. So I interview the parents. I look out for the markers with the parents. Was their development typical? Was there any regression in their language? Did they start making the sounds that a 1 year old would make, and then by 2 they stopped and they started to not talk? Things like that. Or were there delays in their development? Walking, talking, making words. And then we look for the autism signs as well. So there's distinct traits of autism as well. But that's changing, because autism is such a diverse field of interest, which is a very specific, like a very specific field of interest of mine. These things are changing. Like we're learning so much more about autism that we can't stick to these things. We have to progress and to be a bit more open about the different ways at which we can look at autism as well.